Welcome to EDU World Space.
Okay, so this is the free body diagram for this question. So let's consider the direction along the surface is x direction, and the direction perpendicular to the surface is y direction. Therefore, we can apply the force equilibrium for this question. So we have the net force along the y direction is equal to normal force plus force P sine phi minus the gravity times cosine alpha is equal to 0. So we have normal force N is equal to W cosine alpha minus P sine phi. And the net force along the x direction can be equal to P cosine phi minus F minus W sine alpha is equal to 0. So we have P cosine phi is equal to F plus W sine alpha. And we know F here is the friction, and friction can be equal to the coefficient of static friction times the normal force. So we have P cosine phi is equal to mu Sn plus W sine alpha. Therefore, we also know that the N, which is the normal force here, can be equal to W cosine alpha minus P sine phi. So now we can use W cosine alpha minus P sine phi, substitute for normal force N. So we have P cosine phi is equal to mu S times W cosine alpha minus P sine phi plus W sine alpha. And remember in the question, it was given us that angle theta can be equal to inverse tangent mu S. Therefore, the coefficient of the static friction can be equal to tangent theta. So now we have P cosine phi is equal to tangent theta times W cosine alpha minus P sine phi plus W sine alpha. Therefore, we have P cosine phi minus tangent theta times W cosine alpha minus P sine phi minus W sine alpha is equal to 0. So if we do some rearrangement here, we have P times cosine phi plus tangent theta sine phi minus W times tangent theta cosine alpha plus sine alpha is equal to 0. So we have force P is equal to W times sine alpha plus tangent theta times cosine alpha over cosine phi plus tangent theta times sine phi. And remember, tangent theta can be equal to sine theta over cosine theta. So we have P is equal to W times sine alpha plus sine theta over cosine theta times cosine alpha over cosine phi plus sine theta over cosine theta times sine phi. So now we can multiply by cosine theta up and down. And this will give us force P is equal to W times sine alpha cosine theta plus sine theta cosine alpha over cosine phi cosine theta plus sine theta sine phi. Since if we multiply by cosine theta here, cosine theta here and cosine theta here will be cancelled out. And here will be multiplied by cosine theta, and same for here. So as you can tell, sine alpha times cosine theta plus sine theta times cosine alpha is equal to sine alpha plus theta, and cosine phi times cosine theta plus sine theta times sine phi is equal to cosine phi minus theta. Therefore, we have the magnitude of the force P is equal to W times sine alpha plus theta over cosine phi minus theta. And this is the answer for this question.